I want to talk with you about how to get more opportunities. I think that in order for you to get to where you want to be in 2026 and way beyond this, is to start saying yes instead of no. All right. There's a power of doing things now rather than waiting for later and just seeing what happens. A lot of times people think that better opportunities will come, and they will, but also understanding at the same time that sometimes the best opportunities are here right now in the flesh, in the spirit, in the flesh meaning like in your body, but in the spirit meaning like in a heavenly condition. And I was talking to someone last night, and we were talking about an opportunity. She wanted to work for me. And I said, well, can you meet me this upcoming week? And, she's getting her MBA degree. And I'm like, okay, when you finish that? She's like, in 2 weeks. And after that, I can meet you. And I'm like, wow. So you're not realizing the opportunity right now because in 2 weeks, I can hire someone easily for this job. But you're telling me that you can't do it because logistically, you have to finish your degree. And I understand that you have to do one thing before you get to another. But a lot of people miss out on wide open opportunities simply because they're too busy in their own mind. They're too cluttered. They want a system, a structure. They want a way to do things that is fanciful rather than realistic. And they think that everything is going to go their way. And when it doesn't go their way and their expectations are not met, they get upset and they become desperate. And they're now forced to be reactive instead of proactive. So the reason why most people don't know how to act on opportunities now in the immediate is simply because they don't know what they want. They haven't taken the time to think about the things that they have to do in order to get prepared. All right. For instance, someone right now, they're asking me to pay rent. Sir, can you help me pay rent? And it's a good question. Can I help them pay rent? Yes, I can. But will I help them pay rent? The answer is no. And the reason is because you have to prepare on your own, right? Like no one's going to come and bail you out. God definitely does miracles for people. And there's opportunities where money can be made. But if we're going to get a place to live, we have to prepare for what we need to do in order to stay there, right? In order to keep on going. And just trust the process of development, because a lot of people don't want the development. They want to do the things that appeal to their flesh instead of the things that appeal to their spirit. They want to do the things that is convenient for them rather than things that must be done that can give them that convenience 5 years or 10 years later. For an example, I had to make a major decision when I was in my early 20s. And I knew that I couldn't work for other people. Like, it was absolutely intolerable for me. So what I did was, I was like, what skills do rich people have that I need to have? And what opportunities do poor people consistently turn down that I need to start looking at and looking for? And just asking those two questions. If you're taking notes, write that down. It's very important, like, what skills do they not have that I need? And I realized a lot of them didn't have the basic skills of, personal development, which is communication, leadership, time management, organizing, dealing with their emotions, handling personal conflicts, building relationships, handling the ups and downs of life, and more importantly, having faith, right? There's so many other skills: money management, investing. And I made a vow to myself, and more importantly, to the Lord, to God. And I was like, I'm never going to be in a deficit of these skills, right? I'm never going to be stuck in a place where I don't know how to make money. Like, that's an impossible place to be in. Like, even if I had everything that was lost, which I've been in those situations many times in my adult life. And I can tell you that no matter what, I always had the ability to earn tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions on the spot, right? Even when I was like in the depths of darkness, right? In the most challenging times, like the beginning of this year was probably the hardest time in my life because I had been betrayed by someone who I truly loved and I thought loved me, but really didn't. Um, and it was a business partner that I gave everything to, but didn't reciprocate when it was all done. And so I had to recover myself. I had to, have a little comeback here. But because of the skills that I had and experiences that I gained, I was able to make things happen, right? There's a lot of people who, if these things happen, they only have the job skills that they learned for the last job, right? And those technical skills might be important to their career and to the thing that they did last, but it's not going to help them to get to that next level for where they need to be in the future. And God is always transitioning us, and we have to be ready for that transition. And a lot of that transition requires faith that He will provide for us, right? Faith that He will deliver on His promises. We're not stuck, right? We don't have to sit there and like figure it out when God already gave us the answers. He already gave it to us, right? It's important to sit down though and go through the time that is required to develop yourself. And for me, that means studying the Bible for hours at a time, not just like, a quick glance and let me study this verse and be done with it. No, we don't just read the Bible and then throw it in a corner and let it collect dust for weeks or months at a time. Instead, we dig down deeply in the verses, right? So I was reading Matthew 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 today. And that's how I'm prepared to do this now, right? So in order to act on the things now, you have to prepare for it, right? You have to be proactive. And that's what takes you to the next level, right? So when it's time to actually do things, you're not questioning if it can be done or if you can trust somebody else or if this is going to work out. You're just ready to do it immediately because okay, I've already prepared for this. I'm ready. Let's make it happen. Like for instance, yesterday, I had a lot of energy and I was like, let me do something different today for God. And I was like, what should I do? And I'm like, well, I'm a YouTuber and I need some videos, right? So I sat down in 4 hours and I made 70 videos. But the reason I'm able to do 70 videos is because I have the content to do that, right? I have the mindset to do that. I have the ability to do that. I have the connectivity with God, and the wisdom, the ideas, the truth, the foundation to build, right? And not just that, but I also have the platform to share the message on. So I know that, okay, not only am I going to post on YouTube, but I can post on TikTok, I can post on Instagram, LinkedIn, right? All the platforms. And there's no limit to how many people I can reach. So even if I sit down, each video is going to reach 10,000 people. So at least, right? So I'm doing the math, 70 times 10,000, like we know the number is really high, right? We could say it could even reach millions, right? We can keep on going. And it's just you can do so many things in such a little time, but you have to be able and willing to do it now. Even when the betrayal that I faced had happened, and remember, this is a person I was with for 15 years. It's something I never saw coming. I took a trip, I came back, and everything was taken from me. Um, I had already prepared for something like this. Even if I didn't even know I was preparing for it, I was prepared because I had a bunch of manuscripts ready. I had about 15 books ready to publish. And all I had to do was edit, format, and make sure that everything was done the way I needed it to be done. And so it's not like I came back and I had nothing to do, right? It's not like I was just sitting there moping around and sitting in depression. Actually, when it happened to me, I was in an airplane and I saw, my phone is being taken, my emails are gone, my social media was stolen from me. I started making a checklist, right? I could have been easily a victim-minded person and got back there and see my multi-million-dollar house robbed and been like, okay, well, this is where I'm at, and I, just end it, kill myself, or drink or do something, like, and go crazy. But instead, what I did was I got to, the library, and I started reading the Bible incessantly, like I've always been doing, and I sought for answers. I journaled, I set goals, I determined what tasks needed to be done, and it was a huge list. But I knew that this time next year is going to be very different, and I went after the goals that I knew that God wanted me to pursue. And he said, son, just wait, right? Because God talks to us. He's like, son, just wait until you see what happens 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 2 years from now. And I'm like, all right, God, I trust you. I know what you're going to do. And as time went on, opportunities and miracles happened. And even when they came, I could have easily said, oh man, I don't know if I should do this or that. I just said yes to everything because everything to me made sense. Everything was clear cut. Everything was was obvious, right? And that's what success is about. It has to be obvious. It's not about like, okay, here's an opportunity. How much will I get out of it? No, that's not how it works. No one's going to pay you to read books. No one's going to pay you to set goals. No one's going to pay you to do certain jobs as an entrepreneur that requires you to set up for your business. But if you know what it takes, then you're going to take the steps of action, and then God is going to make it happen for you, right? He's going to give you the success, and he will alleviate the pain and turn it into power, right? And so there's a strong force in this world called transmutation. Transmutation of pain, transmutation of temptation, transmutation of sadness. And what that basically means is that we all have sorrows, we all have difficulties, we all have challenges, we all have, if you're a sexual person, you have lust. If you're a person that desires great wealth, right, you have the feeling of getting after what you want, and so forth, right? Everyone has a disposition of what they want and what it takes to get there. But in order to fulfill those needs, you have to be able to, in a way, sublimate and create from the imagination that you have deep down within. And basically what that means is that if you're dealing with a conflict, right? Like let's say you're in a marriage and it's abusive, or you're at a job and it's difficult because the boss is hard to work with, or you have your own personal conflicts, you want to get married, or you're lonely, right? You can take those challenges and make something of it, right? You can instead of sitting home and being like, oh, I can't do anything, go to the gym, right? Go to a restaurant, go and have like an appetizer at the bar. You don't have to drink at the bar, but just go there and talk to the people and like experience life, right? You don't have to be stuck at home moping and groping and just wishing that things were better. You got to make things better, right? You got to do things that you're afraid to do. Go places you're afraid to go. Last night I went to a nice place, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I'm tired. I don't want to, dress up and do all this stuff. And I went out and I had a fabulous night. But what if I stayed home? I would have just been home bored, right? And or I just would have been in the same situation that I've been in, which is to study and read and do the work that I do all the time. And I probably would have been frustrated doing that because you can only do that so much, and I do that for 10, 15 hours a week at the minimum. So I got out there, I went out, I met a bunch of people, talked to a lot of young people, talked to elderly people, saw a different part of the city I'd never been to, and I was able to see things that, I wouldn't have seen if I was just at home. And it's the same time, right? So like, if you think about the 52-week period that we have to do this again and again and again. We don't just take the same street to get to work every time, or to the gym, or to the grocery store. You got to try a different route. You got to try a different grocery store. You got to try a different gym. You got to try out different people. There's 8 billion people in this world. Why are you stuck with the 8 that you're acquainted with all the time, right? Why are you stuck with just family and friends and neighbors and coworkers and people at church and people at the gym. Like, you can do so much more. You don't have to be confined in a little box, you know? You could be like, flap your wings and fly away, right? There's a difference between a chicken and an eagle. The chicken is bop, 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 and they're just, in the little soil, just eating from the floor, and they're limited. They can't fly, they can't really jump that high, they're within the coop. But an eagle is like, even if you're depressed, even if you're down, even if you're confused and you feel lost, you gotta remember that God is gonna help you. He's gonna bail you out. You gotta go out and flap your wings, like flap your wings out there and get out there. Like, look for different kinds of prey, meaning meals. You don't have to eat the same thing all the time or go the same places all the time and stick by the tree like a normal bird would, or within the same forest. If you're an eagle, you can fly to a different forest. You can go to a different country. In North America, a bald eagle, for instance, can go from Alaska to Canada to the US in the same week and, log in thousands of miles if they really wanted to. And that's what we have to do, right? We have to think way bigger than, what our current circumstances. We can't be confined to what we see right in front of us, right? And that's where imagination comes in. So the key to getting more opportunities, like I said, is to keep switching it up, right? It's kind of like my motto. I do just naturally. I switch things up all the time. I switch up all my workouts. I switch up, sometimes you got to switch up employees, right? I switch up furniture. I switch up my outfits. I don't just wear the same thing every time, every 3 to 5 years. I got a whole new closet, like, and you could say, I can't afford it, but the reason why you can't afford it is because you're not switching it up. Like, go find a way to afford it. Like, if you can't afford it, go to the thrift store and buy something to accessorize, or buy, like, some glasses, sunglasses, or different kind of shoes, or different color, or, like, do something that you've never done before so you can be someone that you've never been before. Even if you're in the same relationships or you're in, the same job, like, try to do something different within that position, you know? Like, try to use a different technique to talk to your spouse. Try to use a different method to do your work. And what you're going to realize is that creativity will come out. Like, you're going to start seeing things in a whole different way that you never would have seen before because of your approach, your techniques, right? Your ability to do things is consistently changing for the better, right? For the betterment of your development. And that's what it really is all about. It's about you, you know, taking a step back and saying, what can I do differently that I haven't done before? You know, if you root for one team, try to root for another team. I'm not saying be a traitor, but sometimes people only see, like, they study sports, they only like that one team, and they hate all the other teams, or they can't see the good in other teams. You got to do a whole bunch of things. Try a different drink, try a different meal, go to a different kind of restaurant. Like, if you never had Ethiopian food, go and try it. If you never had Mexican food from real Mexicans, go and try it. If you never had, steak and seafood, go and try it if that's what you want. Even if, you're not making that much money, but you live in a nice city, go to the nicest restaurant and order a little appetizer, like I said, and try it out and see how it is. And that's how I started. I started just with a little bit. I had, credit cards that I was using, and being in my early 20s, I was like, I gotta just experience. Like, I can't just allow results to be dictated to me. I could have ate cold cut sandwiches in my whole entire 20s and mid, like, multi-billionaire, trillionaire. But I was like, instead of me, like, trying to save all the time and be safe all the time, let's try this restaurant. Let's go this place. And I've been to thousands of restaurants, and then when I go out, I know how to talk to people. I know how to communicate. I know how to order. I know how to recruit, right? That's the biggest reason, if anything, why I go out. Obviously I want the break. It's nice to have the break, but then when I'm finally there, I'm like, you know what? She would be a great lady to hire, or he would be great on my team. And that's how I'm always thinking. I'm thinking operationally, I'm thinking about expansion. I'm thinking about how to put people in better opportunities than how I found them in. And a lot of times people can't see it. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know." Like I said, that lady last night, she was just like, "I gotta wait until I'm done," and then, I mean, even if you think about the Bible, Jesus Christ encountered some young men, and they were like, "Oh, we have to bury our father before we go," and he's like, "Just let the dead bury the dead." Like, she might be done with her master's degree in a couple weeks, but what if she didn't even need the master's degree to work for me, right? I'm not saying don't finish it. She's gonna finish it no matter what, and I want her to. But if she knows she's gonna get an A, just finish it. You got a perfect GPA, you got a perfect grade. You got to say yes. Let's meet up. Let's do something. Let's talk about it. Let's make it happen, right? You got to have ambition. You got to have skill. And a lot of people say, I want growth. I want change. I want to develop. I want to be rich. I want to be successful. But how many people are actually doing the work to get there, right? How many people are actually giving full effort? How many people are doing the maximum instead of the minimum? If you talk to most people, they go into work and they try to leave as fast as they can. And then they get home and they do their chores, and then that's it. That's a basic life. But that's why they're stuck. That's why, they only have a couple hundred or a couple thousand in their bank account. And if they're further, let's say they're in the middle class, they might have like a couple $100,000 in equity and retirement and so forth, just because they're more skilled and better positioned than most people. But that doesn't mean they're happy, right? Even people who made millions, because God has been fortunate to them, and has placed them in a great position. I've seen a lot of people that are multimillionaires, and they're bored out of their mind, and they're at the casinos, or they're going to do drugs, or they're just spending all this money uselessly to pursue their desires, their passions, in the flesh, for instance. And you see it all the time. People pay top dollar to sit courtside at the basketball game, or to watch the U.S. Open and their favorite tennis players, and you're like, how much are the seats? And they're like $5,000, and I'm like, whoa, you could have did a lot more with that. And sometimes I'm not even saying don't do that. If you have that kind of money, enjoy it. But a lot of these people are not even enjoying it. A lot of these people are just going to go. They're just going to network. They're hoping to have a good time, and deep down they're empty. And it's not only rich people, it's also poor people. Poor people can also have empty experiences where they're going out or they're talking to someone and they're just like losing interest in the middle of the conversation. Or they're trying to get somewhere specifically, but they can't get there because their mind doesn't work that way. Like, they want to communicate their ideas, their thoughts, and maybe even the reaction of the other person that they're talking to prohibits them from going further within that relationship. And that's one thing you got to realize. Like, you're dealing with a lot of people who they think they want it, but they don't want it, right? You have to prove that you want it. First, you have to prove it. Then once you're in a position, and you're in a position to recruit, you're in a position to hire, to fire, to create, then you have a lot of options, right? You have options to do whatever you want, to go wherever you want to be, to pursue any goal that God has put in your heart. But until you get to that place where you have a lot of options, you got to do a lot of back work. And what that means is you got to really think, like, in the next 5 to 10 years, what are the skills that I need? Who are the people I need to surround myself with? What kind of coaching do I need to acquire to get to the places I desire? What kind of devotion do I have to give to God in order to reach the next level of my life? What are the things that I need to sacrifice in order to get to that next level? A lot of times people, they will never admit this, but they have one or two sins that they consistently abide by every single day, and they expect God to bless them. They want righteousness, but they're consulting with evil. And the Bible clearly says you can't have fresh water from a salty pool, right? You can't use old wineskins with new wines, and vice versa. And you can't give, pearls to pigs. You can't expect the best while you're not giving the best. And in this world, it's kind of like you have to what you put in is what you get out, and what you get out is what you've put in. Like if you want the fire, you got to put in the wood. You can't just sit there at the fireplace and nothing is established. And we live in a world where I would say at least 90% of people are very delusional, and legitimately they think that certain things are going to happen, that they're going to manifest, and that their religion or their tradition or that their way of thinking is going to get them to where they want to be. Like I was talking to another person early in the week, and they're like, "Oh, I'm a Virgo, I'm a Cancer," and I'm like, "That's not how this works." When your parents had you in that month does not determine your success, right? Or some people are like, "I do these prayers, or I worship these crystals, or I saw a fortune teller." I'm like, that's not how it is. The only way to make it is through Jesus Christ. So if you ask me my real opinion, I think 99% of people really don't know the truth. Everyone is just trying to figure it out. We live in a world where out of the 8+ billion people, 99.9% of them are just copying each other, right? They want to model it until they master it, but they don't really know what they're modeling, right? There's not that many people that are really innovating and doing things differently, right? And it's not a knock to them; it's just a knock to the system. But more importantly, it's how the enemy works, right? As the devil pervades this world, remember he has powers and principalities that go way beyond our own problems and challenges that we were currently facing. And if we overcome them, he can send more, right? If we think, oh, we're good now, no, we're not. Like you can never like just relax and take it easy. You got to always take advantage of the time that you have. So even if it's a good time, you got to thank God, right? Because you know that it's not going to last that long, right? You can have 4 or 5 days of happiness and bliss, but then you can also have 3 or 4 or 5 days of struggle and challenges and things that you have to overcome. There's a lot of unnecessary things that people will try to do to you, holdups and delays and betrayals and insults. And, I get insulted every day, all the time, right? If you reach millions of people like I do, people are going to call you all kinds of names, right? People are going to say all kinds of things. And there's nothing that you can do about it because they're lesser informed, right? They're like, for instance, just think about it. If someone just comes onto my page and they make a comment and they're like, "Oh, you're this, you're that," and I'm like, first of all, you don't know how long I've been doing this. I put my whole life into this, right? Thousands and thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours, I can say easily. And then someone they scouted my page for 5 minutes, not even, usually like a minute or two. They make a quick split-second decision, and they're like, they want to point fingers and condemn immediately. And they're like, "You're this, you're that, you're this." And I'm like, I'm so used to it, right? I've been dealing with this for so long that I just laugh because I'm like, this guy, this gal knows nothing, not something, nothing, right? Not even knows a little bit, right? You're studying a little bit, you're looking at only a few posts, and you're making a decision based on that. And I know you can be discerning, but usually it's the people that don't even show their face or their names, right? It's usually the people that are just hiding, right? It's the devil's people. It's the demons coming out. And the enemy is so mad at what I'm doing because I'm serving Jesus Christ every day that he's sending demons to attack in every way. And not just online, but in person too. So it's kind of like water off a duck's back. I don't care about it anymore. I see it and I laugh at it because I know, okay, you know, that's what they think. That's not what I think. So as you continue to ascend, you got to remember that God will send you friends as well. It's not just enemies. Because if one person insults you, another person will compliment you, right? And it might not be the same day or the same moment. It might take a little bit longer. But eventually, you're going to get it. Like, think about Jesus Christ as he was carrying the cross. And before he reached the top of the hill, right, Simon of Cyrene came, right, a friend. But prior to that, it was Pilate. He had to deal with a great enemy. And, he had to deal with the Pharisees and all the people that were mocking him and the soldiers that were beating him. But he eventually he knew deep down, really deep down, that God was going to protect him, that God is going to be there. And so That's exactly what we have to do. We have to know in the deepest part of our souls that God is in control, that He's going to help us every day in every way, no matter what. There's no limit, right? There's no gimmicks. There's only shifting and shifting into greatness. And you have in your 20s, I would say at least 50, probably 60 years to understand, like, okay, there's a lot of time from age 21, let's say, and 50 years from that is 71. So 60 would be 81. And we've right now in America, we have a president that's 80. Our last president is now 80 something now. So you can still do a lot in your 80s. Okay. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to retire at 65 or 70. If you're thinking that way, you're not built for success. You really want to retire until you die. I can understand wanting to sit back and enjoy family. You will do that. You could be partially retired, but you can't just completely stop and do nothing. There's always going to be work to be done, even if you have unlimited money to work with. You don't just work because you have to, you work because you want to. And that's when life becomes fun, right? When you work because you want to, life is going to get fun, right? It's going to be interesting. There's going to be enormous challenges, of course, because the enemy hates people who enjoy their work. That's why he subjects the majority of people to work that they don't like, because they're slaves to money, and then now they have to do what they have to do and watch the clock all day. But if you end up doing the work that you do like, you can have so much fun along the way, right? You can meet a lot of people, you can do a lot of things, you can gain a lot of skills, you can obtain more insight, you could just see the world differently than what you've ever seen before. And as you continue to grow and mature, you're going to see that miracles will happen, things that you never even would have expected. I'm going to the restaurant and suddenly the hostess takes me to the best seat. I didn't even expect it. In the highest building of the city, like, I almost didn't go. But because God is so good, he's just like, I'll take you there, son. He's like, you work for me, I'll take care of you. Like, I will be your father. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. As a child, you don't know what to ask your parents every time, right? You don't know what toy or what food or what place to ask for, right? But what does your parents do, right? If they're a loving parent, they'll get you that toy, the best toy you ever could have thought, better than what you ever expected. Or they're going to teach you about a new food, right? Like the first time you eat pizza, good pizza, you're like, whoa, or anything, that is tasty. Or you might not say, I want to go to a theme park, but suddenly you're at Disney World, or Hershey Park, or somewhere nice, Six Flags, or somewhere else. There's a lot of places in this world, in different countries, if you're from a different place. You know what I'm saying? An amusement park could be, like, as a child, a fascinating experience. You don't even know what's going to happen. You're just on the ride. Now cotton candy's in your face and popcorn, and all these people are like happy and laughing, and it's just like a fantasy. It's like heaven, right? So that's good when you're 8, not when you're 28, right? So a lot of times people who may not have had good parents or may not had good childhood experiences want to make up for that, right? And they try to do those things in the future. But either way, your Father in heaven knows exactly what you need. He knows exactly what you want. He knows exactly how to get it to you in the fastest way possible. And so all you have to do is prepare yourself, and then when you're ready for the next task, put your head down and work. And that's all it is, right? To gain momentum, you have to keep on going. I had a guy text me earlier, and he said, Daniel, I know things are, like things have been happening to me, and I don't know if I should be cautious and just wait and let things play out. And I'm like, no, my friend, you're very close to hitting gold, right? You're mining for diamonds, and you're gonna get it. But instead of retracting, you need to expand. You need to attack. You need to be aggressive. You don't need to pull back, right? You need to attack harder than ever before. Go after it. And that's what it takes if you want to make it. I remember that when I started my business, I said to myself, I'm going to do all these activities. And I measured it, right? I looked at the 52-week period in that upcoming year. And I'm like, how many things can I do? How many books can I write? How many speeches can I give? How many people can I meet? How many networking events can I attend? How many articles can I write? How many businesses can I create? How do I foster a relationship between the people I love? And how do I increase my chances of success? And even though I had to go all in, I remember in my first year, I made like $30,000 in business, and I spent 40,000 because I had to use credit and all this. And I was like, at the end of the year, I was like, it's so hard. Like, how do I get there, right? How do I get to where I need to go? But because of the things I went through in that first year, and because I said yes to all the opportunities that were right in front of my face, I 10 times my income the next year, right? So next thing you know, I'm making hundreds of thousands. And then eventually in the subsequent years, I'm making millions because of the things I did in year one, year two, year three, year four, and five and beyond. And after your 10th year, you're just like, okay, you really understand. After your 15th year, you're just like, all right, we're building something with a lot of momentum. We got a lot of, you know, a lot of people on our side, a lot of network established. And after you're 20, you're just like, you're just flying. Like if you're sticking to that one thing and you're in year 20, you know how you think, you know how you sleep, you know how ideas come, you know how to organize yourself. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, but even if you're just a professional that's within your game and within your range, okay, well, these are the things that I have to do to get to the place I need to be. And because you've done so much and you've seen all the miracles that God has given you, you're like, well, these are the things I have to do in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years in order to get more of that success that I've been granted. And so that's how it really works. You gotta stick with what you know, but also be willing to grow. And you have to know yourself. You have to know your tendencies. You have to know what you need in order to succeed. You can't be naive and just pretend that you don't need the things that you really need. You know, if you have certain desires that must be met, you have to count the cost and be willing to obtain it, right? And have people who offer those things to you to do it for you. Um, and you got to know what you like and what you don't like. You can't be stuck majoring on minors, right? You got to major on majors. You can't be taking out the trash and opening mail and doing laundry if you're an executive or if you're an entrepreneur, right? Like if you want to make $1 million a year, you don't have time to stack the shoes in a corner, right? Or to organize all these things in your household or decorate. Now you could oversee it, you can direct people to do it, you can touch it here and there once in a while. But don't do $15 activities an hour when you could be doing $15,000 activities per hour, right? Like, don't watch TV from people that are not even making money, because a lot of times people are contracted. TV makes things look way better than it is. But if you see an actor, they're not making that much money. They're getting paid per gig, per season, and eventually that season has to end, right? So if you're watching like a reality show, it's not reality, right? Like, and when you're studying them, you're actually it's called opportunity cost. You're giving up the opportunity of what you could have been doing to further and advance yourself. Like you could have been reading a book, you could have been studying the Bible, you could have been studying something that a billionaire wrote. You could have been reading up on philosophy. You could have been learning so much more about your country or other countries. There's so much more to do. So the key right now, like is what I'm saying, is always be prepared to say yes. Always be prepared to do the next thing. Take your time to study. Take your time to read. Take your time to obtain information. And sometimes if you've been doing a lot, it's okay to sit down for a couple of hours and kind of like play around in your office or whatever you like to do. But be in your element is what I'm saying. Be in a comfortable spot where you can think like, hey, how can I strategize this week? How can I think about this, right? What calls do I need to make? Who do I need to talk to? And then write your goals down on paper, because a dull pencil is better than a sharp mind. And if you understand the power of doing that, and you record all of your ideas, all your thoughts, and you have other people to help you to fulfill those goals, then you're going to be way ahead of the game, right? Because you can't do it by yourself. First of all, a lot of people are like, well, I don't have anyone else. You got to find somebody then. If you don't have anyone, find somebody, right? Don't just hang around people that don't do anything and are unproductive. Like, you don't have time for friends to just meet up every week and like not talk business if you're ambitious, you know. Now, if you're not ambitious, do that, you know, have coffee, talk about anything, and then don't have anything else to do with that person. But I personally can't do that, right? Unless that person is my wife or my best friend. But you can't be meeting up with random people and then expecting that conversation to go far if you already know that what they're talking about is garbage, right? So someone's asking me, what if you still have to pay the bills and or you can't find opportunities? I would say make opportunities. Find a way to pay the bills. In fact, the reason why most people can't pay the bills is because that's where their goal is set at, right? It's just set at bills. So let's say you need like, you know, $5,000 a month or 10,000, right? If you're just at 5 or 10 and you're like, that's what I need to make to pay the bills, that's all you're going to end up doing every 30-day period is just paying the bills, you know, and you're not going to be able to get past that. But if your bills are 5,000, you got to make 10. Now, obviously your bills are going to go up because you're going to want more, but it's better being in that situation than just saying, if I don't make 5,000, I'm going to die. Or if I don't make 10,000 because that's what I owe, I'm not going to make it. Like, that's not how you want to live. That's not how you want to conduct your life. You want to have more leverage than that. So even if you could think like this, if your bills are 5,000, you want to make 20,000, 30,000. And then think about, what do I have to do to do that? Well, you can't work a job making 20 or $30 an hour. It's not going to get you there. But what you can do is learn advanced skills like sales, marketing, branding, communication, leadership, you know, project management, like things like that, that can easily get you to the six-figure and beyond mark. Because that's what you need to do. You need to learn $1 million skills. And, you know, like for instance, even if you say, like, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I know how to, you know, communicate. I'm like, if you really think about it, nobody really knows how to communicate. Because if you really know how to communicate, that means you can go up there right now and give a speech to 10,000 people flawlessly. If you really know how to communicate, you can talk to a complicated person that you never met, and you meet them as a stranger and understand every single thing that they're thinking and what they want based on what the conversation is about. Like understanding their whole love language and what they're saying. If you really know how to communicate, then not only will you be able to communicate with other people in the way that they need it, but people will be able to communicate with you in the way that you need it. And if you're not getting that, then you don't know how to communicate as well as you need to. Think about that, right? I'm good at communicating, but are people communicating to you based on a communication that you sent out to them? Are you reflecting the same kind of communication that you're giving, right? Because if you're not hearing back from people the same way that you believe should be done, then you're not a great communicator yet, right? You might have basic communication skills. Like people will also, you know, even foreigners will say, "Oh, I know English," and I'm like, I don't even know English. Like, there's 172,000 English words in the dictionary, according to Merriam-Webster, and I think Oxford has a little bit more. But I only know like maybe 10 to 15,000 words. So I'm way behind, right? Like I don't even know 10% of my own language. So how am I gonna say that I'm a great communicator even though I communicate to millions of people a day? Right? You see what I'm saying? Like there's levels. There's levels. If you ask even like a professional athlete, are you a good athlete? They're gonna be like, I'm a good athlete compared to most people, and they'll applaud me for it. But I'm not a great athlete compared to where I know I can be. Because there's way more flexibility, there's way more strength, there's way more speed, there's way more agility that I could have. If you ask an actor, Are you the best actor in the world? And even they might be, winning all these awards and, being on big blockbuster movies. They'll say, I'm so far from the person I could be when it comes to making movies. Even if they made the best movie in the world or were featured in, multi-billion-dollar flicks, they'll still tell you like, I can master this one facial expression. And they'll tell you like all their weaknesses because they know what they are, right? The general public doesn't know what they are, but they know what they are. Their coach knows what they are, and they're continually working on these, uh, you know, these deficits that they need to fulfill in order to reach that peak that they're really looking for, right? So, and I'm not saying you have to aim for perfectionism, right? But it's good to, right? It's good to aspire to be the best. It's good to aim to be the top dog, right? To be, the alpha. If you're that kind of person, it is wise to say like, okay, these are the things I need to do. These are the parameters. These are the risks I'm willing to take in order to get there. And if you think like that, you're going to be a winner, right? You're going to be a winner. But every winner starts as a beginner. Before you shoot the ball in basketball, you're gonna have to airball. You're gonna have to hit the rim and brick hard. Before you kick, the ball in the goal as a soccer player, you're gonna have to miss a lot of times, thousands of times, before you become the next Ronaldo or Messi. Before you become an actor, you might have to work dead end jobs as you support yourself working, on Broadway and doing musicals and making way less than you think you deserve based on your level of skill. But that allows you to practice, that allows you to get better. This is the beautiful part of being creative, because if everyone can make it, then everyone would have made it, and then you wouldn't see the best. But when people ask me, for instance, they're like, I want to get into motivational speaking, they really think it's just about like getting up on stage and inspiring people. But I'm like, do you understand, like there's so much work to do, right? There's so much editing, there's so much lighting that has to be done when you shoot a video. There's wardrobe, there's inflection, tone of voice, powerful pauses, the ability to listen to other people when they speak to you, understanding motivation. Like, what's the greatest motivation? If I asked you, what's the greatest motivation of all time? A lot of people won't even know. Well, the greatest motivation is love, right? Money is up there too, though, right? The desire for money, the desire for self-preservation, to be, safe and protected. And those would be probably the top three. Desire to have a belongingness, right? So these are things I know intimately well. But if you ask most people that want to be a motivational speaker or even try to start doing that, they wouldn't even know they wouldn't even think about that. Like, where does motivation come from? Even I see people posting things online, they're like, there's no such thing as motivation. I'm like, yes, there is. Big time. Like, motivation is the actual word, is actually a study. That's like someone saying there's no such thing as a brain. Well, that's a brainless statement, right? Maybe they don't have a brain, and that's why they're saying it. But you know, you can't just assert certain things and just copy other people and say I'm a motivational speaker. No, that's like the same thing as someone jumping into a profession as a doctor or an athlete or an engineer, and they're just like, decide, perform this surgery, fix this machine. You'd be like, I don't know what to do, right? Every industry has many intricacies and technicalities and difficulties, like a lot of like challenges that must be faced before you gain a certain level of experience. Because if you go out there, for instance, as a rookie or an amateur, even if you've been doing it for a little bit, and then you face, a problem and you don't know how to deal with it, it's not going to look good for you, right? You're not going to be able to be smooth with it because you won't know what to do. For instance, if I'm up there and I'm speaking and the microphone goes off, and that's the only option I have left, I got to know how to deal with that successfully, right? There's a lot of challenges that every professional has to face in any field, right? There's no exemption, right? Even someone that's sweeping the floor or getting the trash, for instance, someone might be sweeping the floor and they have the trash in the corner, And they're like, how do I get that, right? You have to know how to get that and not take time to figure it out. If you give the average person who doesn't know their job as a custodian as well as they do, they'd be like, this is hard. It might take an hour trying to figure that out. But someone could be like, okay, just spin the broom like this and catch it. Boom. And it's done in like a second or two. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of technicalities, and that's why you have to just start. Just get started. Just do it now. And the more you do it now, year after year after year, decade after decade, you're going to have a wide array of skills that will back you up as time goes on. And God knows, He knows if you're ready, right? You're not just trying to influence people and prove to them, you're proving to God. And you're also proving to yourself. You know, you're proving that I do have what it takes. I can make this happen. I will have the readiness when called upon. And that's what it's all about. You have to have the readiness. For that young lady, she wasn't ready. You know, when I called upon her, I said, let's take the job. Let's make this happen. I gotta schedule this out. I can't do it. And I'm like, oh, well, you lost the opportunity because, like I said, in 2 weeks I could interview a lot of people. You know, like next week I'm going to Texas. Who knows who I'm gonna meet? I just met her yesterday. I'll meet somebody next week. I'll meet a ton of people. Then it's Thanksgiving, and I know a lot of people end up praying more in Thanksgiving. And a lot of people, you know, they want to go into December with better opportunities and definitely into 2026. And if that's you, reach out to me at info@danielalley.com, which is my email. I'm easy to find, danielalley.com. Just click around, you'll see in the description and also on my title page. But if you want mentorship or you want to work with me in any way, you know, I'm always hiring. I'm always coaching people. I'm always making sure that, you know, you guys are taken care of. I want to help as many people as I can. So if you're looking for opportunities, like we can work, we can invest. I invest for people all the time, and I invest in people all the time. So, you know, coaching is critical, and taking life to the next level is paramount to your success. You have to be willing to do the things you're afraid to do to get to the places you're afraid to go. And success is calling your name, but you got to answer the call, right? You got to say yes instead of no. You can't think about it. You can't worry about the time you've been betrayed before. You can't worry about other people's prejudices. You know, you might have a job and they're looking at you because your gender, your race, your political affiliations, or your religion. And you can say, yeah, I don't know if I could, you know, do it. And, well, if you think that, then that's what it's going to be. But excellence doesn't choose skin color, you know. Money doesn't choose skin color or gender. You can't say because I'm a female, a black female, I'm limited to how much I can make, or I'm an old Chinese man, you know, I can't do it. That's not how money works. Money doesn't respond to you. It responds to your needs and your wants, right? And if you're not getting the money that you want and you need, then it's time to change your wants and your needs. All right, this is deep. Money is not given to people who are not going to do something with it. Is given to people who's going to distribute it righteously, right? And even an evil person could be commissioned by God to distribute that money correctly to the right vendors, to the right, you know, groups of people. It happens all the time. So money is a very spiritual process, and you have to understand how that works. But money is given to people who want and need it for the right reason. And like I'm saying, if you don't have the kind of money you want and need, then you have to change the type of wants and needs you currently have. If you just want it for a vacation, or to do your nails, or to buy a purse, or to get a fancy car, or to, you know, like do something else, then God is going to say, you know, I'm your father, and as a good father, I want to protect you. I am your father. So in this way of protection, I don't believe that what you're asking for aligns with who I want you to be. And so because of what you've been asking for, I can't deliver those results, even though I'd like you. You are my child, but I like you too much to hurt you. So I'm going to protect you by withdrawing this money away from you and giving it to someone else for the time being until you're finally ready, until you start putting the right prayers. And then, oh, my son, my daughter, now you're praying for the right thing. Now you're asking for money for the things that I need you to want it for and need it for. And so, therefore, because you've asked me and it aligns with what has been assigned, I will distribute that wealth to you because you've proven to me, you've shown me that through your prayer, through your patience, through your faith, through your actions, through your skill building, through your preparation, through your timing and understanding how I work. Now you care about me. I will give it to you, my son, my daughter. I will distribute the funds in the way you need it. Oh, you need 1 million? Well, here's 1 million because you've been asking for this. And I've showed you what to do and you've actually done it. And because of your obedience, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to provide it for you. I am God the provider. I've done this before. I've done it for Abraham. I've done it for Joseph. I've done it for Samuel. I've done it for Moses. I'm not a rookie at this. I'm God, right? So that's how he works, right? He's saying, okay, my son and daughter, you want money for this? Okay, that's not necessarily the thing I want you to pray for. I understand it. I'm God. I know your heart deep down. But let's make some adjustments. And if you take that advice, right, that correction leads you into a positive direction, right? But if you don't, if you're not doing the right things and you keep asking for the wrong things, and even if you have a little money, a lot of people, they have what we call emergencies, and emergencies only come when God is trying to slow someone down for a reason. Oh, hold on, halt. You daughter need to fix this car now. All of a sudden, son, you have a hospital bill you have to pay for because you're not ready. I have a lot of things to teach you. You had the 20,000, you had the 50,000, the 100,000, but now we have to use it. Oh, you got to pay taxes now because you're not ready to do the next thing. So let me get you ready. Let me prepare you. There's times of preparation that you have to go through now so that in 2027, 28, 2030, 2040, 2050, you're actually ready, right? That's how God actually works. This is not how I think he works, Daniel Alley. This is how I know he works, right? He wants to protect his children. That's his ultimate goal, is to give you exactly what you need in accordance to who he wants you to be, right? That's his only goal. All he wants to do is give you exactly what you want and need according to how he sets your goals. That's it. This is not complicated. There's no rocket science involved. There's no calculus involved. You don't have to understand Arabic and Hebrew and speak it fluently to get this. It's not, too scientific. It is scientific. But if you say, God, I want something, I need something, and you're willing to do the work in order to get it and obtain it, and it aligns with the divine, then it will be manifested, right? You will easily obtain that which belongs to you. You don't have to chase and attract like a lot of people talk about. Oh, I have to chase it. Oh no, I'm so good, I have to attract it. That's not how this works. You just have to become it, right? And it's going to be attracted unto you. You don't have to try to attract it. You don't have to try to go and get it. If it's there for you, God is going to tell you what to do. And, if there's a young, man or woman that you want for hire or for as your spouse, and they're right there, then you do have to, make the call. But God is not going to give you a spouse until you're finally ready for that spouse. And a lot of people divorce because there's a lot of reasons, but either they can't handle the spouse that they're given or their spouse can't handle them. All right. So make sure to write that down. Like a lot of people can't handle the spouse that they've been given, or their spouse can't handle them and they're ready for growth because growth is a big thing. So there's a reason why, you might face heartbreak at a job or heartbreak in your relationship or heartbreak because, maybe that time you might have gotten fired from the job because God is going to promote you. I remember getting fired from a job, many jobs actually. I had 40 jobs for no reason. I'm working in the movie theater. Like you're not filling up the sodas fast enough. And I'm like, what? Fired? What do you mean? And I was only making $9 an hour, but as a 17-year-old kid, I'm like, this is big money to me. And I was devastated for the day, but deep down, I knew God was going to do something better. I'm like, I don't really belong here that much. And he did take me somewhere better. Then I was making twice as much just a year later. So as you can see, like I wanted to stay there. I felt like I needed to stay there. But God fired me so that I can get the correction. And then I ended up working at a suit store a year later. And here I am selling suits to senators and governors and funeral directors and doctors and lawyers and prestigious people. Now I'm asking questions. And I'm 20 years old and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I'm talking to 6-figure, 7-figure, even 8-figure people that own big businesses in the area, CEOs. And I'm asking questions like, thank God that he got me out of that movie theater. You see how this works? It's really simple. So you might be working a job and you might say, oh, I got fired. Okay, well, good. Because God is correcting and directing and protecting. And he's unleashing new opportunities for you. He's showing you a new way of living and also adjusting your way of thinking. There's going to be hard nights. There's going to be difficult fights with the people that you love. There's going to be avoidance. There's going to be direct confrontation. You might have to skip a holiday or two, right? You might have to move to a different vicinity. You might have to be able to, what's the word? Tippy-toe around certain people. There's a lot of people you're going to have to tippy-toe around for a moment. Not too long, but it's just a fact of life. Sometimes the people you're with, they're amazing at first, but then they become toxic. Or if you find yourself tippy-toeing, you got to address it. Look, I feel like I can't be myself around you, and here are the 5 reasons. And then they might not have even known. Oh, wow. I didn't even realize I was criticizing you that much. I didn't even realize that I was over your shoulder and helicoptering over your decisions. I should take a step back. And if you're dealing with the right person, then they're going to make an evaluation. And that evaluation will be in your favor if they know that they want to continue that relationship. And that's usually how it is, right? But if it's not, because I've been in relationships where it didn't work out, obviously you have to be in that position. Even Jesus Christ was in that position with Judas. And the relationship didn't work out because that person decided to disobey. That person did not respect the boundaries. That person did not check themselves. They did not properly analyze what was being said. Maybe they didn't even listen. Sometimes people listen to respond. They don't listen to understand. You ever talk to someone and they're just like ready to say the next thing and you're like, are you even listening to me? It happens every single day. Like billions of people. Billions of times. Transactional conversations where someone's like explaining something and you're just like, I can't even like fathom that you're going to understand what I'm saying based on how you're listening. So remember, we listen with our eyes. We listen obviously with our ears, technically, literally. But we listen to our eyes when we're talking to people. And, are they listening? Or like, do you see that going over their head? Or like, are they like wandering off? Like I've talked to people sometimes in the past and they're like distracted. I'm talking to them and they're like looking at their phone or looking around and I'm like, nope, next. Right? Because that's how they're programmed. Like some people have not trained themselves to listen correctly. And listening, in my opinion, is probably the number one skill of all time. because not only just listening to God and listening to, yourself and the decisions that you have to make that he's giving you, but listening to other people and really understanding where they're coming from and what they're about. Like, there's a political figure that came out lately, and I didn't like what he was saying and what he was doing in the very beginning. But then after I saw how he ran his campaign and afterwards, I saw that he was willing to make the adjustments, and I was like, you know what? I kind of like him. I don't fully trust him. Like, I don't believe in him like that, but he's respectable, right? He's admirable. I could have held the same way of thinking that I had about him previous, but I was like, you know what? I'm willing to adjust my thinking, right? And that's what we have to do. Sometimes, for instance, we know Donald Trump is a very conflicting figure, but some people have the same level of hate that they had for him in 2015 that they do in 2025. And they have not changed it at all. Like, you ask people, why do you hate Donald Trump? I don't like the stuff he says. And then they could say that, but like, how, like, there's nothing you can say you like, right? And I'm not defending him or saying I like or don't like him. But I'm just saying, like, there's always something like you can even talk about Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or anyone. Like, you can mention anyone specifically, and even if you might not like them, you can always come up with something good about them, something that you respect, something that you admire, because they didn't make it here for no reason, right? They didn't just overcome all these challenges and do all this work for nothing. Like, you can't say I hate everything they do and everything they stand for. That's a toxic way of thinking. You're just categorizing like most uneducated people do, and or miseducated people too, because uneducated, miseducated is different. Miseducated people know a lot of the wrong things. Uneducated people don't know enough of the right things. And you can easily categorize and be like, well, I don't like this or that. Like, some people are like, I don't like that country because of their leader, or I don't like this food because of how it tasted that one time. I'm like, well, you tried it one time, try it again. Like, let's see if it actually works the next time, because it might be better. Or you didn't like, visiting the city that one time, and based on your experiences, you said it was cold, it was rainy, the booking didn't work out, you were with the wrong person. Well, try it again with the right person, with the right booking, on a nice day, all right, and see how it is. So remember, this as we're talking about it in this live stream, is about maximizing opportunity. It starts with how you change your way of thinking and how you change your way of living and how you say yes to opportunities, and also what you say no to, because it's not just saying yes, it's also saying no. Your friends are like, oh, let's go hang out like we always do, and waste time. And no, we can't do that anymore. No, I'm putting my foot down this time. It's going to be hard, no. Or someone's like, I want to, take your time in this sales pitch or this conversation that is needless, and say, you know what, I've heard too many of these things, and it's time for me to say no, because I know guaranteed that this is not going to lead anywhere, right? So, anyways, I appreciate you guys, and thank you for the compliment for the clothes and the hat and everything. There's so much to learn, there's so much to do, there's so much to discover, there's so much to invent, there's so much to create, there's so many relationships to have. Like I said, if you want to connect, just write me, info@danielalley.com. You'll reach me directly. In the upcoming weeks and months, I have a lot of books, a lot of traveling I'll be doing. I may also I'll be leaving the country as well. I may be traveling to very distant places where you might be at. So if you're in Asia and Europe, Australia, South America, we may meet in your country. So just write me where you are. Even if you're in America, I'm traveling the U.S. extensively to end this year, but also in next year. I do have a lot of plans. And let's work together. Let's collaborate. Let's, find a way to connect. So appreciate you guys. Much love to you. I'll see you next time. Always do big things. And most of all, always trust in God through Jesus Christ forever. Amen. Take care of yourself. This is Daniel Alley. Let's maximize our opportunities in 2025 and understand that God is always there and He's going to help us to be prepared in the highest way possible. I'll see you guys next time. Many blessings, and share this with your friends. All right, see you next time.